Erins House is a grief center for children. We encompass ages all the way from 3 up to 30. And we just come around the child that has experienced the death of a loved one and provide peer support, in-school support, telephone support to their families and friends, and just surround them with the resources they need to move through their grief and understand that they're not alone. Erins House started in 1993, so we're coming up on our 22nd anniversary, and it was a community-grown effort, something that started with an idea following the death of Erin shortly before her 6th birthday. A group of family friends and community friends came around her family and helped to provide support for the adults. But they really struggled to find the resources for Erin's little brother and sister. And that's where the concept of Erins House was born, and the community has just embraced it ever since then. We've gone through iterations of living in borrowed spaces and toting tubs around and different things like that, to calling this great 14,000 square foot facility home, all because a community cares. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month, and volunteers are our lifeblood here at Erins House. If we were to have paid staff to come and fill the roles of our volunteers and fill the hours that our volunteers give to us, there's no way we could help as many children as we do. So with that, we have a volunteer force of well over 100 volunteers that come and serve in different capacities. It could be the volunteer that's in that one-on-one group facilitation role, or it could be somebody that comes and simply serves pizza and is a warm, friendly face to those families that are going through a really hard time. And even to the standpoint of, it can be somebody that comes to one of our events and donates the funds that help support our volunteers and all of that. A typical night at Erins House starts with a family meal. When a family experiences the death of a loved one, sometimes it's hard to gather back around that supper table. So we try to reinstitute the idea of family routine and family rituals, and a family meal is one of those. So the family will come to Erins House and have Pizza Hut pizza every program night, and there's not an empty seat at the table where their loved one might have sat. It's filled with our volunteers, and that really fills the gap for those families. From the family meal, they might play a few family games with the volunteers, and then they'll go into their individual groups where they're divided by developmental age. So our 3 to 5-year-olds are together with their volunteer facilitators and on up, and they'll go through memory sharing activities and games, and just giving the kids a healthy outlet for their grief and their memories, and giving them a safe place to share and really know, hey, I'm not so different. I have 6 other friends here that are my same age that experienced the death of a loved one too. We usually wrap up our nights with a big closing circle. We do have an Erins House song, and we'll do a hand squeeze, and it passes all the way around. Just shows that we're all connected. We're all connected through our grief. We have that common bond. And that concludes the program night. They'll come twice a month, and we don't put a timeline on grief, and we don't put a timeline on them. So it's an open door for as long as they need to come to Erins House and find the hope and healing that we have here, they can. We at Erins House obviously love our volunteers. They make our lives easier, and they also extend our reach. The volunteer that comes to Erins House and walks through our door might not know what role they want to fill, so that's where our volunteer coordinator does a volunteer interview with them. We'll walk them through a program night and give them a better idea of what to expect, and we'll find the best role that fits their skill sets and their desires. We like to say, when you're a volunteer at Erins House, we remind you it's not about you. It's about the kids, but ultimately we want to make sure that you're in a role where you can thrive as a volunteer. It might be as one of our group facilitators, where you're directly working with the children along with a co-facilitator, or it could be a house parent, simply serving pizza on one of our program nights. We even have opportunities where we have kids come or youth groups come and clean our house, doing a little spring cleaning and that type of thing. So there's lots of different opportunities, and we just ask that if anybody's interested in volunteering, give us a call, stop by and schedule that volunteer interview, and we'll try and find the right role for you to fit at Erins House. Grief is a universal. We've all experienced grief to some capacity. You don't have to have had the experience of a significant loved one that's died. You can still find a way in your heart to give back to these kids and make their lives better. Sometimes they just need a understanding friend, somebody that's going to let them listen and use the skills that we teach you to improve their ways of dealing with their grief. So that's something that all of our volunteer facilitators go through, is an extensive training. So it's not like we just toss you out there and say, have fun. So we support you along the way and even provide continuing education after the fact to make sure that we're staying up to date on all the trends and just informed in the industry. All of our kids for the month of April, which is Volunteer Appreciation Month, have been working with their families and even individually to write little love notes. We have hearts and butterflies that they've been filling out during the family meal time. And they've written thank you notes and just little sentiments of what it means to have that mentor that's there with them in that peer support group and supporting them on their journey. It's not an easy place to be, and so we like to give the kids an opportunity to show their appreciation for those leaders in their lives. All told, with all of our volunteer roles, and that can be our facilitator, it might be a house parent, it might be even in our in-school support group. So it's serving in any capacity at Erins House. We have tallied throughout 2014 over 6,000 hours of volunteer service. That translates into a very significant dollar amount. So if we were to pay somebody to do the equivalent task, we would be writing a check for over $140,000 for those volunteer hours. So you can see what a volunteer hour or how that impacts a budget when it comes to a nonprofit. Every dollar counts, and we're charged with being good stewards of those dollars. So if we can have somebody donate their time where they might not have the dollar to give to us, still it's equivalent to those donors that go to our events and support us monetarily as well. So we appreciate it on all levels.
Well, the volunteers here at Erins House are important because we obviously could not reach the over 480 individuals we serve each month without that volunteer base. So I like to say that our volunteers are exceptional and beyond, because they are committing to a lot more than just an hour here or there. They are committing to going through our training program, which is over 20 hours, and then they continue for 1 year of service minimum. And what I love about our volunteers is that so many of them have exceeded that 1 year commitment, and they still consider themselves new. We have volunteers that have been here as long as Erins House has been in existence. I think for the volunteers that come here, and what I love about my job is that before they actually sign up to go through our bereavement training program, I get to have that interview with them. And during the interview, we will do a tour of Erins House, and I get to take them to all the rooms, and I get to show them some of the activities and crafts that the kids have done. So it's easy for them to see that this isn't a place where everyone sits around and cries. I mean, it is the happiest sad place that kids get to come to, and they love to come here. They love their volunteers. It just shows when the volunteers walk through the door, the kids, they just run to them. They want to be attached to them. They want to talk to them and tell them whatever they're feeling. And that's what creates that safe place here at Erins House, that we try so hard to just make it a place that kids feel comfortable and they can express themselves, whether it's happy, sad, maybe they have some anger. This is that safe place where they can show those emotions and no one's going to judge them. When our volunteers come into the program space where we actually eat dinner with our families and have pizza, it's such a beautiful thing to see how the kids actually are just attracted to their volunteers. They want to be with them. They want to share what's gone on while they haven't been at Erins House. They want to give a part of themselves. And just the way they light up when they see their volunteers is just amazing. And it's the same with the volunteers. When they see those kids that are in their group, they're excited. That's why they come back for year after year after year, because this just is so meaningful to them. And it's really an easy thing to do. I know many people think that it's a very sad place to be, but when we put our trainees through our bereavement program, we give them the communication tools they need. So it could be just as simple as silence and just sitting next to a child and letting them know that you hear what they're saying and you care about what they're saying. Sometimes that's all a child needs, is just to be heard. I think the people really see the need for it. One thing that I really like about our volunteer program is that we will see volunteers come through after they have been an Erins House family, and we have several of those. So maybe they experienced a death at a young age and they realize how important Erins House has been to them and to their families. So whether it's the child that returns as a volunteer later in life, or even the adult that accompanied that child through Erins House, you see so much of that. So it's a beautiful thing when a community comes together and sees the difference that Erins House is making in the lives of these children. And it's not only during their grief journey, but it's beyond. It's life and what happens beyond Erins House.